What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPaPa, and here we are continuing our series where we look at different Pokemon eras and how the products within them have performed month over month. And we're going to be looking at the top 20 cards, we're going to be looking at booster boxes, elite trainer boxes, we're even going to look at booster packs. And I'm incredibly excited for this particular video because we're going to be looking at XY. And in my mind, XY is kind of flying under the radar a bit. You know, when I'm thinking about the different investors and collectors out there right now, I think there's people who are focused on ultra modern, like the here and now, the products that are coming out today, Pokemon 151, yay, yay, yay. Then I think there are people that are focused on kind of the last three eras, all the way back to Sun and Moon. Sun and Moon was incredible, right? Like super popular, really strong price growth in there. I think Sword and Shield is also incredibly popular, just another great era. And I think a lot of people are focused on those as well. Then I think everybody shifts to the way back where you got people who are focused on, you know, the origin of Pokemon, 1999, 2000, 2001. And I just feel like XY and Black and White, they're kind of just flying under the radar. Not a lot of people are talking about them, but I know that you work hard for your money, so do I. So when it comes to spending my Poke funds, I'm always looking for opportunity, and when things are flying under the radar, that's what gets me excited, and that's how we play chess when everybody else plays checkers, and that's why I wanted to include XY in this video series that we're going to do every single month. So speaking of that, what are we seeing in month over month price changes? So the top 20 cards, so when you look at the 12 sets that have booster boxes in the XY era, the top 20 cards from all 12 of those sets, their total value in October was $4,417. Now in November, it has come down to $4,278. So it's down 138 bucks, or down 3.1%. And I'm going to say that from a percentage standpoint, that is a really close change to Sword and Shield. They are tracking very similarly. But what isn't close is the total value of those cards, right? $4,278 as the total value for the 12 sets with booster boxes in the XY era. Their top 20 cards is incredibly low compared to Sword and Shield. It's incredibly low compared to Sun and Moon. Like, it is amazing to see, you know, the value of these cards compared to their age, compared to some of the newer peers. It's just really fascinating for me to look at. Now, booster boxes is a different story. I am a big believer in sealed collecting here in the Pokemon space. I talk all the time about protecting the downside, and I think that when you think about downside protection, it is hard to get a better downside protectant than buying sealed product, especially booster boxes here. Now, the booster box value from October to November is up almost $1,000, but hold on, most of that came from Phantom Forces because these sets are so old, these boxes are so rare. The only time that the data source that I use will actually change a market price is when a product is sold, right? If no product is sold, it's not going to change the price. And Phantom Forces went up almost $1,000 month over month because a booster box recently sold for $1,000. So yeah, there's some movement in booster box prices. You're going to see some are up, some are down, but the majority of the overall growth came from Phantom Forces. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think that's a good thing. It's just a thing, and that's why we do this every single month, and that's why we keep our finger on the pulse of this, because we are trying to upgrade our Poke knowledge. Now, with all that being said, we do all kinds of fun stuff like this, so if you find value in it and you want more, hit that subscribe button. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. Questions or comments, drop them down below. Those three small things really do go a long way in helping my small channel out, and I really appreciate it. So with that being said, let's start getting into these sets. So we're starting off with XY Evolutions and Steam Siege. Now, overall, the top 20 cards saw a pretty big drop, right? XY Evolutions is down 5%, Steam Siege is down 11%, but a lot of that is being driven by those big chase cards, right? I always talk about the top three cards. The top three cards from each of these sets, XY Evolutions and Steam Siege, are down considerably, right? Like the 4 of the top 6 are down double digits month over month, so it's really hard for the overall price appreciation to go up when your big chase cards are down double digits month over month. But when you look at XY Evolutions, look at those beginning, look at like the bottom 5 cards. Yeah, they're only $3 cards, but you see some pretty decent price appreciation down there. And, you know, to be honest, I can't really wrap my head around the $712 booster box price for XY Evolutions. Like, I get it, it's got Charizards in it, I get it, it's super nostalgic, and it really is an awesome set. But when I go through the rest of this video, like, take note of all the booster boxes that are less than $712. And when I'm thinking about a long-term price appreciation, when I'm looking for value, if I have $700 to spend on an XY era booster box, I am not spending it on XY Evolutions. I'm going to tell you that right now. Like, love the Charizard at the very top, love the nostalgia of it, but I just think there's better values out there. So Speaking of value, the Steam Siege booster box was something that I took part in not long ago. It's sitting over here over my shoulder right now, but there was one that I found that was available for like 200 bucks. And I know Steam Siege isn't, the most popular set of all time, but in my mind I thought, hey, this box is like 7-8 years old at this point. And if I can pick up a sealed booster box from a 7-8-year-old Pokemon set at $200, I'm just gonna do it because I felt like the downside was very well protected. And now it's up to 350 bucks. So that's something to think about as we're looking at some of these new-ish era sets. And some of these booster boxes that are really low right now. Over time, sealed investment does have a tendency to go up because guess what? They're going to get ripped, they're going to get lost, they're going to get destroyed, things are going to happen over time, and that sealed population is only going to continue to go down. The other thing I wanted to call out before we get to the rest of this video is you're going to see some crazy Elite Trainer box prices. Take them with a grain of salt. Elite Trainer boxes were back then are totally different than they are right now. Production runs were much smaller, they were ripped more commonly. Not a lot of Elite Trainer box buy and holders back then compared to now. So take it with a grain of salt, but that's my take on XY Evolutions and Steam Siege. Now, coming into Fates Collide and Breakpoint, two sets right here where the booster boxes are less than XY Evolutions. So Breakpoint just had a terrible month. I mean, look at that. Everything is down. Tons of double-digit growth, or double-digit loss right there. It is just red, 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 but for whatever reason, the booster box is actually up 14%, which is really interesting to see. Now, the average to booster box price ratio, which is down there in the yellow box, right? You know that we have done a ton of data dives and a ton of research into that here on the channel, and we have found that a strong average to booster box price ratio can be a good indicator of future price appreciation. And what's interesting thing to me is these first four sets are all right at 1.6, 1.7, 1.9 is the highest we see, but they are really, really interesting. They're really, really close. Yet we've also seen all of the top 20 cards have come down month over month. But guess what? 3 of the 4 booster boxes have gone up month over month, which is really interesting. So you look at Fates Collide and you look at Breakpoint, the Fates Collide booster box is going for $500 and the Breakpoint booster box is going for $656. To me, I'm taking Fates Collide all day long, right? It's got Umbreon, it's got Glaceon, and then when you think about Breakpoint, Breakpoint has Gyarados, Espeon, Skyla, like nothing against any of them, but I think Umbreon is the type of card that can really get Fates Collide over the hump, and I think can give it some long-term growth and stability and recognition in the market. Everybody loves Umbreon. Not that they don't love Gyarados and Espeon or Skyla. That Skyla card is awesome. I have that in a PSA 10. Love that full art trainer. But when I'm thinking about value right here, the fact that I could pick up Fates Collide for 150 bucks in a booster box, less than Breakpoint, I think there's some awesome value there. Really interesting to see the booster box prices going up while all of these singles prices are coming down month over month. Next one right here, listen. Top 20 cards are still not performing great. We're 6 sets in and we had 6 sets to the negative, but I will say Ancient Origin gives me some hope, right? It's only down 1% month over month and we're starting to see more green in there, right? So you got Breakthrough, you got Ancient Origins, right? Like you think about it, Mewtwo and Bridget equals awesome for Breakthrough. Like I love the fact that it is a Mewtwo heavy set. I have that Bridget card in a PSA 10, which just came through the other day. Like I think there are some awesome things that are going on in that Breakthrough set to come in at $660 per booster box. Now, the thing that Ancient Origin has going for it is those shiny full arts, right? There's some excitement around them, right? Those are the shiny rares that were in there. There's Rayquaza, there's Groudon, those are the headliners in it, but that was what really got Ancient Origins to kind of pop up in price, and it is awesome to see that those prices have been performing relatively well. I mean, that Rayquaza is down a little bit. It's down 3% month over month, but that Groudon is up 2%, so that's really interesting to see, and I do think that since it has those special shiny cards in it, that's why we see the booster box for Ancient Origins up over $1,000 at this point. That is absolutely crazy, but it's really exciting to see too, because I love the fact that you can see how some shiny cards, some special cards can really propel these sets to long-term price appreciation. Now, getting to the next one right here, we've got Roaring Skies and Primal Clash. Now, contrary to what we saw in the very beginning, 4 of the top 6 cards here are up month over month. Really, really exciting. Primal Clash is up 9% and 4%, and then Roaring Skies is up 2% and 1%. Now, if I am trying to think about this era, as a whole, like all of the XY era, I'm going to say that I would either pick Roaring Skies or Breakthrough. I think Roaring Skies has a lot of really, really cool cards in it, and I think it's flying a little bit under the radar. And look down down below, right? The average to booster box price of both of these sets are really high compared to all of the other ones that we've seen. Roaring Skies is at 2.8 and Primal Clash is at 3.7, but for whatever reason, I just can't fall in love with Primal Clash. And if I'm gonna spend my money on something, not only do I have to think it's a great investment, but it's also part of my personal collection, and I gotta have some love for it. Not saying that I wouldn't pick up a booster box of Primal Clash in the future, but it's certainly not on my list right now. So here's what I'm gonna say. These two and the previous two are the only sets so far we've seen with that average to booster box price ratio over 2.0. So again, we're starting to see these sets normalize a little bit. We're starting to see some opportunity here in the middle of the XY era. We're still seeing some price depreciation from the top 20, but not as much as before. Again, top 20 for Roaring Skies is only down 2%, and Primal Clash, it shows 0%, but it's actually slightly up month over month. That's why it's a green 0. So lots of opportunity here in the middle of the XY era. I think, again, a lot of these are flying under the radar. You can pick up a lot of these XY booster boxes for less than you can pick up a lot of the Sun and Moon booster boxes right now, which is absolutely crazy in my mind. So getting into Phantom Forces, which we talked about earlier in Furious Fist, Phantom Forces is a beast. Like, that Dialga secret rare in there is absolutely fire. It's got Gengars in it. Like, the Gengars are so incredibly popular. Phantom Forces is just a great set. And then when I was looking at the cards in Phantom Forces, it made me think of other great Gengar sets out there, right? Like, Team Up is a Gengar set. There's 3 different Team Ups, or there's Team Up cards in that set of Gengar, which is really cool. And then you have Fusion Strike, and I have been such a huge fan of Fusion Strike. If you've been watching this channel for the last year, you know that I've been bullish on Fusion Strike forever. I think Fusion Strike is poised to break out. Now, I'm not saying that Gengar is the catalyst of all of this. Like, that is the one to keep an eye on when the Scarlet and Violet Gengar set comes out. Everybody should pile in. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that up to this point, sets with a good amount of Gengars in them have done well. That's just a fact, right? Now, Furious Fist, it's a sealed rarity play in my mind. So look at those top 20 cards, and when it starts at $34.79, that's not what I would consider a chase card by any means. You know, Lucario and that Karina in there, those are the quote-unquote chase cards, and I'm just going to call them the most expensive cards in the set. And it's not even that it's the Pokemon aren't my favorite or the trainers not my favorite. I just don't like the art. I mean, if you go back and look at them, the art just isn't that great in this set. So for me, the fact that the booster box is at $998, almost $1,000, that's simply because this wasn't printed a lot. You know, it wasn't overly printed, and it's a sealed booster box from the early XY era. So I think that's what's driving that. Certainly is not the driving force, is the single cards in this set, right? All right, so now we're getting into the final two right here. Now, Flashfire, everybody loves Flashfire. Flashfire came out, and it was this monster of a Charizard set, right? You've got the blue Charizard, you've got the blue secret Charizard. Like, 5 of the top 6 cards in this set are Charizards, and we're actually seeing some positive price growth, which we don't say very often in the world of Charizard. Our friend Mr. Charizard has kind of been getting kicked in the tail as of late. Now, and when I'm looking at this, and if I have $3,000 to spend on a booster box, which I don't, nor would I ever do, I would never spend $3,000 on a booster box. I think I would always reinvest that into things that I think have a better opportunity of growth. But I would say I would pick Phantom Forces, or I'd pick Flashfire over Phantom, believe it or not. I think Zard is struggling now, but I think in the long run, Mr. Charizard is going to do what he is destined to do. Now, when you look at the XY base, right, we just talked about Furious Fists and how there wasn't a lot of pop in that set, right? There wasn't a lot of big chase cards. Like, in XY base, like, at least we have Venusaur and we have Blastoise, but, you know, there's no Primals in it, there's no Shinies in it, there's no Megas in it, there's just not a lot of big things in that set. They're all EX cards. But again, Blastoise and Venusaur is in there, and again, as I said, it's almost 10 years old, which is absolutely crazy to think about. And the reality is, hey, listen, when XY base came out, there was probably a lot of it available. It was probably going for 80, 90 bucks, maybe even cheaper back then. A lot of people probably thought this has been printed into the ground and it's not going to be worth any money. But guess what? Over the next 10 years, some of us who are watching this video, we're not going to be here anymore. We're not going to be collecting anymore. We will have sold whatever we have in our stocks because we're going to choose other hobbies, or we're going to have other life interests. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. It's part of growing. It's part of expanding. So I know a lot of us are feeling the same way about Scarlet and Violet right now, and I am in no way, shape, or form saying that Scarlet and Violet base is going to do what XY base is, but just remember, like, the population of Pokemon collectors out there is growing over time, and the sealed population is always going to diminish over time. No matter how crazy we might think it is, there are people who this year are going to get out there and they're going to rip Flashfire booster boxes, they're going to rip XY booster boxes, so that population is going to continue to depreciate, while in theory the want, the desire, the demand is going to continue to go up. So listen, Here's what I'm gonna say. If you made it to the end of this video and you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button. If you want more content like this and you're not a subscriber yet, hit that subscribe button. And as always, drop the comments down below so I can answer them. And I hope you all have an epic one. Thanks, everybody.